Hey, that's us. KFUG Community Radio for Crescent City, Del Norte, and beyond. 1 minute past 2. Just Paul with you. Time now for the Snowflake Hour. It is our liberal talk hour that immediately precedes Sam Straight and his conservative hour. See how we keep it all balanced that way. And today's show, actually, we have a guest here in the studio, somebody I've been meaning to talk to for a while. Brayden Hatch. How you doing, Brayden?
I'm good. How are you?
Now, the reason I wanted to have you on was to talk to you about youth activism, a youth being politically involved, and you are that. How old are you?
I am 18, and I'm in high school.
18 and in high school. You'll be graduating this year?
Yep.
Oh, that's really cool.
I'll be getting out of prison.
You'll be getting out. Oh, well. What are you doing next, though?
I'm going to CR, and I'm going to study political science.
Oh, wonderful. Wow, that's cool. You're going to transfer to a university and go out in the big bad world?
Yeah, most likely to Humboldt.
Mm-hmm. That's so smart. I went to 3 community colleges before before transferring into a university, and it's a smart way to go. Congratulations. So you are let's just run down. You are the head, the lead, the go-to person at the high school, the teen, I guess not a teen, you're actually a voter now if you're 18. So yeah. You are involved with the New Progressive Party in Del Norte County, correct?
Yes. They're not a party though, but okay. It's okay.
It's not a party. That's funny.
Yeah, just to mention. Yeah, the New Progressives. So I guess you can just define the New Progressives as a whip towards the other parties, whether it be Green, Democratic, or any other, to make sure we go in a progressive direction towards universal health care, living wage, and free college, essentially. So Bernie's plan.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm also on the Democratic Central Committee, making sure it's very progressive. So
that's really interesting. So you were, how long have you been on the Democratic Central Committee here?
Not too long. I just started within the year, so it's a really great offer too.
I went to a meeting of the Democratic Central Committee right after the election in 2016, and it was a dark, stormy night, and it was a very depressing place to be. It was their first meeting after the election, and yeah, it was wow. I at the time didn't have a sense that the committee could kind of really sort of understood what had happened, and two, had any sort of idea how to address what they didn't understand had happened. So how's it shorn up? Do you think that the Democrats here in Del Norte County are working toward are coalescing?
Yes, the Democratic Party has swung more progressive, which I'm really proud of. The Democratic chair, Kevin Hendricks, is really a progressive person, and he's really pulling the party to the left, which is what young people want. It's been proven. I do think the Democrats need more of a voice, and they've been in the shadows for far too long, and that's because the Republicans are quite scary in this community sometimes.
Do you feel that way? What frightens you about Republicans?
Well, not all of them, but some of them tend to be very volatile. When the Charlottesville incident happened, and I was out with the New Progressives, supporting the leftists out there. One of the host was actually threatened, and she made her husband stay home because she didn't feel safe that the kids didn't feel safe at home.
Locally that happened here?
Yes, locally.
Wow. Oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah. And I won't name any names.
No, that's best.
Horrible person.
Horrible person.
He is a horrible person.
So there's certainly a lot of vitriol in the whole debate, and I think a lot about this, the incredible divide in the country right now.
Yeah.
And I want to get back into addressing that, but I want to sort of stick with the topic too of you. You're 18 years old. You've been. We sort of talked a little bit before going on the air about that. I want to catch up that conversation. What prompted you? What inspired you to become active like that, to make a noise politically?
I really got interested in it. It's actually, I think I have an OCD for politics. Just saying, yes, I do. I think about it nonstop, and that's probably not healthy, but I think it's my main driver in the morning. I get up, read some news, read some political books, and it makes me happy knowing that in a way I'm helping my community, in a way helping advance good ideas, universal healthcare, etc., all that. So yeah, and when I was 16, I was kind of naive, but I think now I'm starting to really get a firm understanding of what's happening in the world.
Was there any sort of specific happening or event that caused you to sort of wake up, or have you always just kind of been OCD for politics?
I think ever since I was 16, I've always been OCD for politics. Okay. So yeah, and I think because I used to live in San Diego, and when I moved up here, I got even more political up here. So
when did you move up here?
About 3 years ago.
Okay.
2015.
Okay, wow. So what do you think about, there's so many questions I have for you, but first off, at the high school, the high school, you go there. How political is Del Norte High?
Not very political. Not at all.
Really?
Yeah, the students don't seem very interested in it from my perspective. There are a few that are politically active, though I do see, such as on March 14th with the 17 minutes, there were people I didn't even know who would go out and spend those 17 minutes to honor the victims. So maybe there is somewhat of a, I would say a revolution happening for young people.
Wow, that's interesting. So folks that you, and I'd heard that about, certainly about that initial 17 minutes of silence there. It kind of was across the political spectrum. People could get behind that.
Yeah.
But not so the march on the 24th. Did you get that? Or at least that's the.
Yes, I did go up to the one in Brookings. Around 50 to 100 people were there. It was great. They did a great job. They did a memorial for all the victims since Columbine.
Okay, wow.
So, yeah.
Do you have a number? How many, what number were they, since Columbine? That's 19 years of this stuff.
I actually don't know that statistic. Wow. I wish I did, but it's a lot.
Yeah,
I'm sure, yeah. But yeah, that one was good. Then there was a lot of conspiracy theories, obviously, with Emma Gonzalez.
Yeah.
And David, oh my gosh, David Hogg got the worst of it. He got compared to a Nazi. Because he wore a peace armband from a 1969 Supreme Court case, which is ridiculous. And then he threw up his arm in a fist saying power to the people, essentially. And he got compared to a Nazi. Really?
And what was it? Was it Sly Stallone's brother a couple of days ago saying, somebody should sucker punch that kid? Like, what is your take on that kind of backlash to the teens in Parkland?
That's ridiculous. I always say, attack people's ideas and their policies, not them personally. That's horrible. If you really have to go that low, you shouldn't be talking about politics. That's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Even if you go that low, you're no longer talking about politics.
No, and you're very amoral, too. And it makes you look irrational, which isn't good for your movement either. If you're for... Because I will say I'm pro-gun, but not in the sense that I want unlimited liberty per se. For it, I do believe in, common sense gun laws.
And what are those for you? What's your take on how should we address guns in this country?
Universal background check. Probably a high capacity magazine and
a ban.
Yeah, a ban. And I would like to see an assault weapons ban. We don't need military grade weapons in this society. We're too civilized for that. Supposedly. That's
an interesting kind of ironic point to make, right? We're too civilized for that.
We are. We should be.
Yeah. So, how do you answer folks who would say, okay, that's fine and all, but Second Amendment and we should have these things. We should have assault weapons because it allows us to protect ourselves realistically from the encroachment of the government.
the encroachment of the government. It's a modern state. Can you really go up against a modern state, especially the most powerful one in the world? You seriously want me to believe that you're going to go up against a modern state with drones, tanks, nuclear weapons, really, and it has allies around the world?
And
you're telling me you're going to do
push
that.
a button and you no longer have cell service or internet.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And what gets me is like, we want to keep when folks say this, we want our guns, so that we can guard against the encroachment of the government and fight for our freedoms and stand up. Okay, so given the political history just in the last few decades, what exactly would it take the government to do before you stood up to them? Because it hasn't happened yet.
I know. The last time I can remember, other than the Civil War against the central government, was back in 1792 with George Washington and the whiskey tax.
Yeah, exactly, the Whiskey Rebellion.
And he sent down 12,000 men to deal with it.
Wow.
And yet, people praise Washington, even though they didn't want a whiskey tax and all that. It's contradictory. But yeah, you're not going to go up against the state.
And it takes an even, it's so funny, people not understanding that. I mean, even back our very first president who clamped down on dissent and clamped down right away.
Yeah.
And then, when people talk about Lincoln, who probably changed the presidency more than any other president because it made it the more powerful executive that has kind of come and gone ever since then.
Yeah.
People don't understand kind of the intricacies of that sort of history.
Yeah.
What about the voices who say, you're just 18. I don't want my constitutional rights being dictated by a bunch of kids. I've seen that a lot online. That's sort of, you almost like you don't get to have a voice for some reason.
Because I don't know enough about the world. So
yeah, that's another ironic point.
What's so funny is that, look, I may not know everything about the world. I may change my mind in 10 years or so, maybe less than that. I have no idea. But you should be happy that I'm getting experience and knowing. And instead of insulting children and saying, hey, yeah, I want to punch that sucker in the face, why don't you argue your position with studies, cite sources, so I can actually know, maybe I was wrong on this issue. We need to start thinking like scientists in our society. And change our conclusions when evidence is brought up, new type of evidence. So, yeah.
It's interesting to hear somebody saying we need to be more conscious about what we decide and how we debate. So let's apply that. Let's apply that sort of approach then to school shootings.
Yeah.
Right, which is galvanized, it seems, an entire generation. You've got people vitriolically on one side insulting these protesters. You've got the protesters who, again, the kids from Park, they're coming out. There's a lot of tears. There's a lot of passion and a lot of emotion in what they do. If we could clear all of this out, because they were victims and have been traumatized by all of this, and the people who hate them and lie about them and their motivations, if we could clear all of that out, how could we take our reasoning, our faculties then, and apply them to this issue? What would be... Do you have a starting point, a premise? Let's just reasonably look at this.
Yeah.
Where do we begin?
Yeah. Well, I'm not trying to call out conservatives. I'm trying to make it as nonpartisan as possible and call out our representatives. Because, look, you may not like an assault weapons ban, but we need to talk about it. For instance, in the Florida legislature, they decided to arm teachers, but to a 70 to whatever vote, a majority vote, said, we're not talking about assault weapons ban. Really? If you think your ideas will stand up to persecution, then why not discuss them? And this goes back to what really pisses me off about right now is that the CDC is not funded.
Yeah, exactly. No studies for gun violence or any of that, right?
It's declined ever since the 90s. It's disgusting. And, a lot of the studies that have been done have either been inconclusive or they've been, somewhat, gun control does help, but it's still inconclusive. We need conclusive evidence. And it really makes me mad that the NRA in 1997 with the Brady bill took out the CDC and their funding and wouldn't allow them to study gun control or guns in general.
And that kind of hamstrings the whole idea of looking at this dispassionately and with reason if you don't have the data there, because it's been...
Yeah, and it just says to the NRA, okay, if you think your ideas are great, then why not debate them in Congress? Oh, wait, you don't think they're great. You just want to sell more guns because of the gun manufacturers.
That's an interesting point, yeah. Exactly. Well, yeah, and that's exactly what the NRA is all about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's almost a litmus test for your for any idea. It's like, okay, let's debate it. Oh, you don't want to debate it? Well, then maybe we shouldn't enact it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before that you have a libertarian sort of vein running through you too as well. How do you take the libertarian and the Bernie and mix them up into a political ideology?
Well, for instance, and this is just me. It's not all youth. But I do think we need to legalize, tax, and especially regulate, keyword regulate, all drugs. Because it's been shown in, for instance, Portugal. They didn't legalize it, but they did decriminalize it and treat it as a health issue, and the drug use went down. We need to do that. We need to stop spending money on the stupid drug war. We need to stop spending money on sending marijuana users into prison. I don't want my tax dollars going to that. That's ridiculous. I think balancing the libertarian aspect of me is that, okay, I want the maximum amount of freedom we can do, but it needs to be regulated. For instance, I think of it like the First Amendment. The First Amendment is regulated. You can't do certain acts. You can't say certain things. There's a time, place, and manner laws, all that. It's regulated. Just as the Second should be, just as all the other amendments, just as the abortion amendment is. It's regulated. You can't go past a certain date in getting an abortion. So, yeah, that's how I kind of balance it, is regulations, but you can still have that liberty in place. It will always be in place.
That's interesting, and it's the same. I take that logic and I apply it to the gun debate as well. When people are decrying, that we cannot have an assault weapons ban. Well, okay, the line is going to be arbitrarily drawn someplace, and beyond that line, you're not going to be able to get a tank, or a howitzer. So if we're arguing in society back and forth about where that arbitrary line is going to be drawn, and there were at times, back in the 90s, an assault weapon ban, and then not, and then back and forth. And again, I can't go buy a fully automatic 50 caliber machine gun and mount it to the top of my Mitsubishi pickup, right?
No.
So that obviously isn't bothering anybody when it comes to the Second Amendment.
No.
So this line is obviously debatable.
Yeah.
We can take the larger questions about Second Amendment rights and things like that and say yay or nay, but when it gets right down to it, down and dirty in it, it is arbitrary where that regulation, unless it's spelled out in the Constitution, and of course it's not in the Second Amendment, but where that line is drawn. And it seems like they're treating that line as being like constitutionally drawn.
Yeah.
We are constitutionally do our assault weapons. No, and that's why we have a Supreme Court to argue about where we draw these lines and how we interpret these amendments and things like that.
It was interesting because, and I took a free course at the college with my political science teacher. He's amazing, by the way.
Who is it? Who's teaching political science?
Will Merriweather. He's fantastic.
I've heard good things about him.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He actually said Scalia, the very conservative Supreme Court justice, said, yeah, we can regulate your guns.
There you go.
And it's, again, it goes back to the First Amendment as well. You can regulate free speech. You can regulate the Second Amendment as well. It's not, there's a certain amount of liberty we can and can't have. You can't go run and yell bomb in an airport.
Yeah,
it creates chaos.
That's funny. So is that the 21st century, like post-terrorism version of you can't shout fire in a crowded movie theater, which is what it was back in the 60s or whenever they had that. Oh, that's funny. You can't yell bomb in an airport. Okay, yeah.
Well, and there's somewhat of a hypocrisy with some conservatives, not all. I don't like to generalize, but they support a president who said on his Twitter said, okay, if you burn the flag, you get a year in jail or you get your loss of citizenship. What? Excuse me, I thought we were supposed to be free. Mm-hmm. Conservatives typically only focus on the Second Amendment and not really the First because they're hyper-nationalist. I'm sorry to say, they usually are, and I'm not for nationalism. It's kind of gross, if I may say.
It's gross.
It is. It creates such a divide in the country. It's gross. Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to drill down into the political definition of grossness. I'm sorry. So you were in the middle of a thought. Yeah. No national. You're not into nationalism.
Oh no. For instance, the whole immigration debate.
Mm-hmm.
It's disgusting that we are treating people like cattle, saying, oh, you need to go back to a country like El Salvador that has drug gangs going around and saying, okay, if you don't pay me, you die.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to send children back into that. Oh, at least we kept the families together. No, that's ridiculous. Don't send them back into poverty. And second, it says on the Statue of Liberty, bring in your hungry, bring in your poor, It's the land of opportunity, and it should be for millions. If you don't want people coming from Mexico, hey, maybe instead of building a wall, we should help their economy.
I know, help Mexico be a better place to stay.
Yeah. I think it was, I can't remember when this was instituted, but I believe it was the subsidization of corn that led to it coming here, I guess, and that's why they have a loss of jobs. I'm not sure. Fact check me on that, please. But yeah, why not, instead of building a stupid wall, help the countries? That's more empathetic. I think there is a lack of empathy nowadays, and it really hurts me in a way personally, because I want an empathetic society. I want a democratic society. I want it to be fair. I don't want CEOs at the top making 270 times more than the average worker.
Mm-hmm.
Such a divide in wealth is not good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
I want to get back to the idea of empathy then.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, okay, so you used immigration as an example of like that, to treat these people as people.
Yeah.
I'm trying to formulate a question here, because I was interviewing Zoe actually a couple of nights ago, and
Mm-hmm.
talking to them about, and they said something that was just right off. It was like, how do you teach somebody to care about somebody else?
Yeah.
How do you use empathy as a foundational base for a policy?
Yeah. I guess it all goes down to, since they always say liberals don't know anything about economics, I'm here to tell you, yeah, I somewhat do. There's something in there called cost and benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can say, well, immigration helps us net overall, maybe not in the short run, but in the long term, it helps us. It's all about cost and benefit.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that we're in a society where it's like, oh, yeah, I have to get something out of something just to help you. But you have to use that in this type of society.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, other than that, how to really teach people. I'll probably learn along the way once I become more rational.
You be more rational?
Yeah, I'll be more rational. Yeah.
Because it seems like, on one side you talk about, looking at people as being people.
Yeah.
And on the other side, also talking about dealing with these ideas, these things rationally.
Yeah.
So is there a disconnect there? Can you do that? Because is empathy rational? Maybe I couldn't answer that question, so I'm not expecting.
Yeah, it's really philosophical. It's really hard.
Wow, that's a tough one. No, serious. Is empathy rational? Is that something that? That's wow.
If you don't want a completely barbarous society, then yes,
you have to
have some sort of rational,
mm-hmm.
type of society, and it's been kind of proven throughout history, the more empathetic, the more you get out of it.
Okay. Do you have an example for them?
Well, I would have to say, throughout all of history, there's something called mutual aid, which is basically I help you, you help me, we get through this together. This has been seen in medieval society before the state came in and effed everything up. This has been seen in tribal societies. We used to function a lot different without money. Yeah, it's really turned greedy. In our society. Yeah,
and I find that there's in the United States especially, perhaps more so than any place else, we don't have like this overarching identity. We don't have a cultural identity so much. We don't have, we're not, if you're French, you've been French for what, going on 900 years, right? Yeah. So you've been French for a while. Same with the English, not so Germanic, maybe, but there are in Europe and elsewhere long traditions of cultural identity that as like it or not, a polyglot nation, a nation of immigrants, we're not going to have. A lot of our, other than sort of these banal kind of things like, it's the land of opportunity, unless you're a Native American, then it's the land of genocide. Yep. It's just all over the place. Yeah. The lowest common denominator for us is money.
It is.
It's like everything can be boiled down to money.
It is. And, I hate to pull my marks out, because I know I'm a bit radical that way, but he does capital. It's not even the people at the top that drives us, it's capital runs everything. It's almost like a sentient type of thing in our society, and maybe that's a bit too extreme for people. I'm sure I'll get a lot of flack for that, but hey, that's how I see it in society, that capital always runs our lives.
It's true, and that instead of things like empathy or rationalism dictating policy, it just boils down to dollars.
Yeah, it always does. I don't want a type of society like that. I wish we had a society that was not so focused on money and was focused on human needs. I was watching yesterday on like BuzzFeed or whatever. Someone bought a $2,000 pizza with gold flakes on it. Yes. So while people are starving, we have the audacity to create a pizza that has gold flakes on it. Are you serious?
That's wow. There's always a part of me when I see things like that. It's like, okay, we're not that close yet. We're not that close to falling completely apart.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe I should start looking at it like, that's how close we are to falling completely apart, because we're making $2,000 gold-plated pizzas.
Yeah. This is what you're producing for society. It's not, wow. Yeah.
Oh man, so okay, well let's let me do this actually. Let's take a quick little break and play. I try to remember to do this as often as possible. These people help us pay the bills here. Our underwriters. We'll do an underwriting announcement or two, and as soon as the computer wakes up, if you don't look at it for half an hour like I haven't, it kind of spins its wheels at me. But I'd like to talk to you then about kind of the future and what you'd like to have happen, at least in your vision. Certainly in 2018, this will be your first national election, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about that, and then also looking forward, what you'd like to see happen in this great nation of ours.
Yeah.
You're tuned to KFUG 101.1 FM online, kfugradio.org. 2:30 the time. The show is Snowflakes. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with Brayden Hatch here. Today's broadcast is underwritten in part by Green Bicycles, makers of Happy Endings Tea Mix and Ocean Bounty Flour Mix, locally produced, clean green certified plant nutrients. Whether your grow is small or large, indoor or out, Green Bicycles' all-natural, sustainable plant nutrients help ensure your crop's quality from strong roots to fragrant flowers. Green Bicycles, because those in the know. Check out Green Bicycles on Facebook or at greenbicycles.com. That's GREAN bicycles.com. The future of agriculture, right here in Crescent City. Green Bicycles, another proud underwriter of your community radio station. KFUG Community Radio is made possible in part by College of the Redwoods.
Did you know CR has new transfer degrees that guarantee your transfer to a CSU as a junior? Find out more and explore majors at redwoods.edu/transfer.
Okay, so the underwriting announcement stopped, and we're sitting here talking politics. So just Paul with you, back live with Brayden Hatch, and we were talking about. Let's continue that thought. Then we were talking about how you unabashedly pulled out Karl Marx in the previous segment.
Yeah, I would guess. I think this is just me, but I'm a radical. I'm sorry if that pisses off a lot of conservatives.
Radical how? Because you don't seem radical to me. You seem reasonable. So how are you radical then? Is it being reasonable?
I guess that, but no, I actually, as I said before, I read a lot of political books, and this may freak people out. I read Karl Marx. I read a lot of anarchist thinkers, and what I have to say to society is that please read these books, not to agree with them, but to actually understand. There's so much propaganda around it. Karl Marx is not a murderous person. Yes, I mean, can you really blame him for Stalin, who is horrible? Mao, all those types? No, you can't. He emphasized a democratic society. He did. He wanted a society that wasn't focused so much on capital, as I was saying before. And I think that's really inspiring to me, because he focused on, and especially in his time was horrible. Capitalism was horrible. Now, is it as bad as today as it was back then? No. Let's set that record straight. But we're seeing, again, since the collapse of capitalism in 2007, there's really started a movement towards a more socialist society. And that society emphasizes democracy, human needs, and solidarity, as it always does.
How do you achieve those things? How do you achieve solidarity in it?
Well, I mean, for Marx, it's revolution. I don't particularly agree with him on that. A lot of the philosophers I read say, yeah, let's go revolution, because you have to think of the context. It was really crappy back then.
Oh, yeah.
It was really crappy.
We're talking like mid-19th century. And there was no time to be under the boot of capitalism.
No, there wasn't. So I kind of disagree with him there, but I think like Bernie Sanders, and no, let me set the record straight. Bernie Sanders is not a communist, okay? Let's set that record straight. Yeah, he's not. But his political revolution of getting in office and trying to change the tide to emphasize human needs and actually a more democratic society. So how do you build solidarity, I guess? It's the fact that, I guess it goes back to the whole, how do you empathize with others? Cost and benefit. What's the cost and benefit of this? I think the benefit, it far outnumbers the cost for a more empathetic society. So, yeah.
I was out running. I like to go run out by Lake Earl and out on Cadra Point there, and I figured everything out the other day.
Yeah.
While I was running, I figured out, okay, so the military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
Here we have something. We essentially, with the exception of maybe a couple of years in the 90s, have been and have remained in a wartime economy, meaning that a certain percentage or larger than a certain percentage of our GDP goes toward the things of war.
Yeah.
Ever since World War II. All through the Cold War, and then the Cold War was over, and it was almost like we didn't know what to do with ourselves in the 90s, and then, oh, great, terrorism comes along, and we can get right back on that bandwagon and sort of shovel our money into an endeavor that everyone agrees, including the people in the system, we don't ever want to use these things. We don't ever, this is just for peace, right?
Yeah.
We want to remain secure. We don't want to actually blow up all these bombs, but we've made a huge chunk of our economy basically the subsidizing of this industry.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, wow, what if we could all get behind something that that we could agree to throw our money into a big economic furnace, just like the military-industrial complex, and we could all shovel our money into it, and it have maybe more benefits for society. So let's talk about, and this is it's a bad name for it, but the welfare state. Let's talk about healthcare. Let's talk about education. All of the things that we could be throwing all of this money into and actually get a return from in society,
like it's supposed to.
Like it's supposed to, instead of like, here's this huge part of our lives and our economy that is honestly just a furnace, and we dump it into, and we keep pouring it into this industry that doesn't really produce anything other than jobs. Some jobs. Mm-hmm. But if we took that same amount of effort and threw it into clean energy and threw it into education and threw it into the human side of the budget, what that would mean as far as a windfall for our economy, as opposed to just dumping it in, down the missile and super carriers.
Oh yeah, towards all the corporations. Great.
Right, exactly. So why can't people see this? And why can't I empathize with those people? That's my big problem.
I think people are misled by the Republican Party, and I'm gonna say, and some of the national Democrats, because they become corrupt by, again, capital keyword. So they have to shill out for those industries, and why people can't see it, because there's propaganda.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all corporate media, whether it be MSNBC, that really fake news station, and then Fox News and all those. So there is a limited window you can see things through. But yeah, they are under enormous propaganda.
This begs the question then for me, where do you get your news?
I get it from, I try to stay as nonpartisan as possible, so I do Reuters. They're really good.
What is it?
Reuters is really good. USA Today is really good.
Seriously, really? That was always a joke when I was growing up. USA
Really?
Today was like the McDonald's of, it was the McPaper, and nobody took it seriously. Is it really?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
actually, it's really decent.
Probably because they have to appeal to everybody.
Yeah,
right?
they do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they typically also have a lot of conservative opinions. So, but I also listen to NPR. That one's a little bit liberal leaning.
Sure.
I don't listen really anything else, especially not Fox News. I'm sorry, I'm not that rational, and
you're not gonna have that unbiased.
Yeah. And look, I was also kind of debating about this. Yes, there are a lot of, to the people who think there is, a liberal bias everywhere. Yes, there is liberal bias, but there's also conservative bias. Breitbart, Fox News, Daily Wire. Please don't. I'm willing to admit, yes, MSNBC, CNN has a liberal bias. That's why it's important to look at multiple sources.
Exactly. Yeah. That's wow. So let's talk the march. How involved are you in planning the 420 march?
I basically left that up to Zoe. I just helped her. And this will show my total collusion with the Democrats, totally. But all I did was, hey, if you want to use the parking lot of the Democrats, go ahead. Yep, the conspiracy is out, guys. I'm sorry to say.
So that was your idea? Because you're on the committee, exactly.
Yeah, I'm on the committee. Yeah.
That's actually something, and I wanted to step back and let Zoe sort of take the lead and let things happen.
Yeah.
But I was like, don't do that. Don't go there. Because then that's going to become the flashpoint. That's what everybody's going to argue about, and they're going to lose track of what the message is. Because I thought it was like too divisive a location.
But I'm going to have to disagree with that.
Okay, please.
It's because it's already divisive. They already think the Democrats are colluding with us.
So do you think, okay, then let's march
It doesn't
here
matter
now?
because those rational people. Those
were air quotes. You can't see those on the radio.
Yeah, I'm
those
sorry.
Yeah,
they already say, the radical left, as the NRA so pointed out, is taking over the young people and using them. And I mean, I also made this argument. So there was also abortion protests as well. And to those people, I say, okay, good for you. I'm glad you're getting.
Wait, when?
active.
When's the abortion protester? Did it happen already?
I think it did happen in some locations in schools. They walked out. But I say, okay, great. I like that young people are getting active, whether it be. And yesterday I heard on the news there was some people who support the Second Amendment walked out of school in Florida. Mm-hmm. So good for them. Mm-hmm. You know, whether I agree with them or not, good. I'm glad they're getting politically active finally. But yeah, I wasn't really in the process of really helping, other than just assisting of, hey, would you like to use the Democratic parking lot and get a permit? That's literally all.
So you're helping with at least having the Democrats help with the permitting of it, or is I'm not sure how it works.
It's just me.
Just you?
Yeah.
It's just you.
It is. Yeah.
So, and your point is embrace that? Embrace this?
Embrace it.
Embrace
because
the divide?
Embrace the divide because they're already dividing it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. They already think we're in cahoots with the Democrats. Mm-hmm. And yes, the Democrats support the marchers, but they're not taking it over and using us.
Yeah.
And I really like this rationale that, the Democrats are using it, but with the people who are doing abortion marches, they're not using it at all. They're going to use both sides either way. They're going to say, look at this movement, look at these people, we need to go towards gun control.
Wow, that's an interesting point.
Yeah, and the important thing is, though, stop looking at the Democrats and start saying, wait, don't look at Emma Gonzalez, don't look at David Hogg, look at the amount of young people actually getting involved. Mm-hmm. This is the first time in a long time I've seen students get involved on a mass scale.
Yeah, it's been so long too. I mean, I grew up in the 80s. I was in high school in the 80s, and nobody, because we were all sick of political activism because of the baby boom generation. That's all we heard about growing up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to be so politically inactive, you won't believe it.
Yeah.
And then it took all of this time and horrible tragedy. Zoe the other night pointed out, we were talking, and it occurred to me, so it's going to be the 19th anniversary of Columbine. I can remember Columbine. I can remember what it was like before Columbine. And I can remember the things that worried me in school.
Yeah.
And it wasn't worrying about my life. And it wasn't worrying about the next lockdown. And it wasn't worrying about all of these other things. It was completely changed. And then the last realization that hit me was that 19 years ago, Zoe wasn't even born. So this has been your guys' whole life. This kind of milieu.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for...
Yeah, and it's become some sort of... maybe not for adults, but for us, it's just like, there's another shooting. I mean, it's horrible. Yeah, it's horrible, but it's just almost becoming normal.
Yeah.
And that's horrible. It shouldn't be that way at all.
So, and you had mentioned before too that you got involved with the Democrats because you were kind of hoping to spur the Democrats to be more progressive.
Yes.
So is then offering the Democratic the building there on Northcrest as being the destination for the march, is that a way to kind of, I mean, you're saying to embrace the divide because it's there already and everybody's going to use it, but then are you also maybe thinking this is a way for local Democrats to kind of go to really sort of embrace the progressiveness?
I'm not sure, but the reason I chose the Democrats is because I feel like that's the only place we'd be accepted for it. I mean, really, who else is going to accept us? I'm not willing to bet, a lot of people would, maybe.
That you could say, yeah. Can we march to your parking lot?
Can we march to McDonald's? Yeah.
Can we march to McDonald's?
Yeah, give me a big Whopper. Oh, wait, wrong store.
Wrong store.
wrong.
I floated the idea with Zoe about maybe something like the community health center. But again, that's a corporate entity. That's not just, a functionary sort of thing. That's a business.
Yeah.
And so, probably not. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh. That is that's an interesting sort of thing. All right. So you graduate this year.
Yes.
You're going to do the community college and work toward a degree in political science. What do you hope to achieve? What would you like to do with your life?
I probably would like to do grassroots activism.
Yeah.
reading those darn philosophers again, it makes
Those radicals.
Those radicals, gosh, always colluding with the Democratic Party. By the way, the reason I chose, since I'm such a radical, you may wonder why I chose the Democrats. There's no radicals in this city. There's none. There's, or at very least, a very small amount. There's no real socialists, if I may say. And I chose the Democrats because that's the only place I can go to. That's the only progress I can go towards for universal health care and living wage and all those things. So it's very, very small progress, but I hope it will bring the Democratic Party to the left.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know exactly sort of where it was, but it always had trouble achieving things in the left. It was the more it moved toward the center, like with Clinton and things, then they could get things done. But that was, of course, 25 years ago now. So, okay, so to the folks who might go, all right, so you've talked about socialism, you've talked about also libertarianism and all sorts of things. You've referred to yourself as a radical. So, your world. If you could, let's just take it, 50 years in the future, or 20 years in the future, what does it look like as far as specific changes that you would like to champion now and see realized in the future?
Okay, so let's define, and this is an actual real ideology.
Okay.
Libertarian socialism. That sounds like an oxymoron. Yeah. I know. Did you know libertarianism actually used to be owned by the radical left back in the 1890s?
No, I did not.
It was only until Murray Rothbard, who's an anarcho-capitalist, very oxymoronic.
That is also, wow.
Yes, it is. Actually took the word. So it's a very far left ideology. I don't support Stalin. I don't support Mao. It's a very new type of thing. It's more run with the anarchist type of things going on. So my vision for society, I want a decentralized society. I want healthcare for everybody. I want to move away I don't want capitalism anymore. Capitalism is a rotten system. It's given us so many ills. I mean, yes, it has progressed us, but every system has progressed us before, whether it be feudalism or anything else. Yes, it does progress, but that doesn't mean we can't change it, and we shouldn't. So I'm envisioning a type of society where it's worker run. It doesn't have bosses, and that may sound crazy, but democratically deciding in your workplace what to do with the surplus, how to produce it, anything else. You actually run the society democratically. And there's many different ideologies on the left of what this society should look like, but that's mine and my own.
Okay. And that's a high-level sort of view. So help me out here. I understand the socialism aspects of what you've just described. What's the libertarian aspects?
Libertarian aspect is saying we're truly not free in this society. You basically, quoting Marx, you sell your labor to the capitalist for not even a profit, a wage. He takes all the profit you produce. So you're truly not free. You go to work, you're told what to do, you're told how to do it to get him the most surplus, the most profit, and take your...
Now, is that straight out of Marx?
Yes.
Because it's been honestly like 30 years since I read Marx in college, but so I'd never thought of it that way. So you sell, and I remember that. You're selling your labor to the capitalist to help him create a surplus.
Yes.
And to take all of it. But you're not getting a surplus for your time.
No.
You come up with, this is the price for my time, this is how much my time costs, and that's just all you're paying for.
Think about it. So the companies are growing right now, as they always do. You're stuck with the minimum wage. Not even the minimum wage. You get stuck at a salary, even though you produced, you collectively produced it together. You get nothing. You get nothing more.
That's so funny. You can put communism in really capitalist terms and say communism is profit vertically integrated.
Yeah, it is. And I know the word communism has gotten such a bad name for it.
Yeah.
And let me define it. I'm going to put this in very simple terms. No, nothing is run by the state. nothing. Karl Marx envisioned a society when productivity is past its limits, when we automate things, and advance society past, a law of manual labor.
So are we finally reaching that point then?
I mean,
150 years or 170 years after
it kind of reminds me of what Stephen Hawking said in a Q&A. Someone asked him, okay, so if society was totally automated or had a law of automation, who should own it? And he said, well, if you give it to the capitalists, they use it and you all are poor.
Yeah.
The mass of society is poor because you have no jobs. Everything's automated. So he said, well, the society should own it. Oh, wow. Essentially, communism.
Yeah.
And communism is a classless, so no classes. Everybody is equal. Is stateless. There is no state. There's no Stalinist state or anything. It's, it's very decentralized. And it is moneyless. So, yeah, that sounds very, very radical and probably scares a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's not as bad as you think.
It's not as bad.
We've actually lived in that type of system before.
I live moneyless every day.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to sell your labor and try and get as much out of it, but you can't.
Wow. So it's possible. Wow, I've learned so much, man. So it's okay. So it was always agreed. I thought anybody who thought about it that the manifesto, the Communist Manifesto, communism was never meant for a poor rural agrarian economy. It wasn't meant for places like Russia and China. And it was meant for places like Germany and France.
Well, and the thing is, so Karl Marx says, okay, so capitalism has advanced us to the point where, it's advanced us enough. It's time to overthrow that system because it's unjust. Go through socialism, which creates a type of culture around helping meet human needs and all that, and helping also create more of a productive process, automate society even more. And then you get to communism, where it's basically, okay, he says the state dissolves. I don't agree with that, but the state dissolves. Everything is pretty much automated, and it's and it's moneyless and it's classless. You don't have this division between, oh, you're rich, I'm poor. No, everybody gets a luxury, essentially. Everybody has everybody gets luxury.
And there's been talk about everybody getting like a living wage, not just a minimum wage, but like basically like everyone having a guaranteed income.
Oh, the universal basic income?
Yes.
I mean, that actually, that is sort of, it's not communism in itself, but it is communistic in essence, because, and to the people who think, oh, well, you'll just be lazy, no, we're driven, something inside of us is driven towards understanding the world. Some of the best philosophers who were really rich and had the time off spent their time studying things. You do things because you feel like you need to. You're really saying, so I'm 18. If we institute communism, right? You're telling me I'm just going to sit on my ass all day?
You're just going to sit back and get fat?
That sounds so boring. Yeah. You know what I want to do? I want to help people in my community. Whether that be fixing potholes or anything else, because I love my community. And people will help out differently in their community in communism. So, yeah.
It really is kind of a cynical understanding of human nature to just think everybody's going to sit back and just, sleep in the sun like a house cat.
Well, again, it's applied to the welfare people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, man. Damn, you're radical, dude.
I know. I'm sorry. And
so what happens when somebody dismisses you because of your radical views?
Well, I don't talk about it a lot. This is very public, but and I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack for it, but I don't care because it's me. And when somebody dismisses it, it's usually they don't even know the real what it really is. They haven't read Marx. I'm not saying you have to read all the books, but at least get a basic understanding of his ideas. Not only that, don't even. Not only read Marx, but also read the anarchist philosophers, because remember, there's many different sectors or many different ideologies and schools within socialism and communism. It's not just, it's a Stalinist state.
Yeah.
No, there's also a libertarian version of that view. So I really want people to actually just get a basic understanding, instead of just saying, you want the state to own everything and you want me to share your toothbrush with you. No. That's what they say sometimes. I'm like, no, there's a difference between personal property, where I have my toothbrush, I have my car, people get to keep their stuff.
Yeah.
And when Marx talks about private property, you know what he's saying? He's talking about the factory, where they create surplus value, they create profit. He wants that collectively owned, not your freaking toothbrush.
So your argument is then just make an honest attempt at understanding the other side. Yeah.
You don't have to agree with me. Just understand it. Yeah.
Wow. That may be asking a lot.
It is. It is. Because there's a lot of stuck-up people around here who are like, well, no, it's not that. I've been taught by Cold War teachers. It's like, that's really, and still, even in class, I'm not bashing my teacher at all. She's fantastic. But it's still taught wrong.
What is?
About radical ideologies. It's really taught wrong. They make you think Marx is evil. They make you think everything else is evil. They make you think anarchism is evil, even though you don't really know it.
Yeah.
So there's still that type of Cold War propaganda, but it's starting to wear off, and we're starting to see it, especially organizations like the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. So that's my take.
Wow. Well, it's 3 minutes away. We've talked for almost a whole hour. 3 minutes away from 3:00. Brayden, I want to thank you for coming on the air and sharing your views. It's really, really interesting and inspiring for me to hear somebody who's 18 who cares so passionately about the rest of us.
Yeah, just my message to people is, you know what? Take a second to read other people's views. Just take a second. Get a firm understanding and then critique people, because that's usually what people on the right who are pro-gun, essentially, really strawman people.
Oh, yeah.
They strawman the left, and, I hate strawmanning.
And anybody who doesn't know what strawmanning is, you have to go and study rhetoric.
Yeah.
It's basically holding up a different argument, a false argument, and trying to divert attention to it. Is that how I remember strawman working?
Yeah. But and look, I can't critique, for instance, anarchist capitalism. I can't critique that yet. I don't like it, but I can't critique it because I don't know enough about it. So I have to go read the philosophers. That's what you need to do. You need to read the whole argument and then argue against it. So that's my message to people. Just read something instead of complaining online about kids and calling them Nazis.
or Tide Pod munchers and all this stuff.
My gosh. I'm gonna really turn pro-gun when you call me a Tide Podder. I'm telling you, it's just killing their own movement. It is.
What is calling teens that?
Insulting people. That's not gonna get people into your movement.
Exactly.
Unless you're already in it. That's really, so you call me a Tide Pod muncher, I'm just gonna be like, yep, you're rational, I'm gonna join your side.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. And that is just, other than, that's also the part about all of this, on whatever side you are. And I try not to be, it certainly sounds like you try not to be, but so much of political discourse is just an echo chamber now.
It is.
You just want to hear what you say back at you.
And, the right always complains about safe spaces. But we all have safe spaces.
Including the right, yeah.
It does, yeah. Yeah, it's called the Heritage Foundation and Cato Institute. I'm sorry.
And Fox News, those are safe places.
Yeah, those are. And all the Facebook groups, yeah.
Oh, man.
So,
Brayden, thank you very much. I got to step aside now and let Sam Straight come on the air and undo everything that we just did.
Thanks for having me on.
And yeah, we're going to talk. We get off the air here. I want to talk about you having your own show. So
Awesome.
that's right on. It's 3:00 straight up. Let's do this. Thanks again to Brayden Hatch for coming in and sharing his views. I'm going to turn it over to Joan Miles, who's one of the most conservative people I know, who's going to do the legal ID. And then right up next, it is Sam Strait and Conversations with Sam for your April Fool's Day.